Hello, Alchemist, and welcome. If you've already chosen your card, check the timestamps below. If not, I'm going to give you a closer look. Today's question is, why do you struggle to trust yourself? We're going to dig deep in this using a wax divination and my own deck of sacred trickster energy called the Cosmic Jester. So, doorway number 1, gentle withdrawal. Solitude, clarity, protection. Retreat is not retreating, it's returning. Doorway number 2, timeline threads. Destiny, connection, cycles. Your path was always weaving you home. And doorway number 3, distraction spiral. Chaos, confusion, clarity. You don't have to chase every echo. Choose your doorway, Alchemist, and let's begin the great work. Hello, Alchemist, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 1. Today's question is, why do you struggle to trust yourself? So let's go ahead and pour our wax so that it can be kind of setting there. And I usually like to do a few layers, so I'll do that. So you chose gentle withdrawal. It feels to me like, just on the surface, that this card is saying that when things get really hard, you like to hide away, you like to disappear from the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can use that as a sort of escapism. And because that happens, a lot of times it happens, and it almost feels like it happens without you even wanting to. You just find yourself overwhelmed, and then you just kind of fall off the map for a while, right? I'm going to pull 3 of these Cosmic Jester cards. And, so really a lot of this is about, how are you able to face the fact that you feel so scared sometimes that you feel like you really need to disappear? Or how do you do that while properly communicating to those around you so that they don't feel abandoned by you? Okay. So let's pull one of these Cosmic Jester cards, and then we'll start with the wax. So yeah, you definitely close off into your cocoon, but the idea is that you need to transmute that from isolation to, retreating and then coming back when you need to come back. So let's take a look at this first card. Stop auditioning for person who can tolerate the most. There is no trophy. Having that next to this 5 of Swords energy is that it's telling me that you've in the past been in a situation where what words were cutting you, but you just tolerated it. And you were like, you know what? I can just will my way through this. I can Prometheus my way through this. Prometheus being the Titan who was strung up and had his liver eaten every day. When we pass to the other side, no one's going to be like, here's a trophy for, taking the most crap from other people. And as I'm looking here, I'm seeing a bird in your wax, a bird with a heart in the center. So there's the idea of constantly wanting to flee or fly because you want to protect your heart. And that's completely reasonable after going through this kind of situation where people were cutting you with their words or using your words against you. All right. We're just going to do 2 layers, but let's go ahead and see what your next card says. The old gods would like to congratulate you on your escape. Now go be feral. Yeah. So you escaped one kind of situation, and because it was pretty toxic or pretty difficult, you maybe have a feeling that going back out into the world can be really scary. You did escape from something and you withdrew from something for your protection, but it eventually became more like isolation or solitude. And you could be surrounded with people and go to work every day and have a friend group and still feel alone and isolated inside. So don't forget to let your wild side out sometimes. Let your true self out. I have this thing that I say, which is basically like, if you start friendships or relationships wearing a mask, you have to wear that mask the whole time, or the relationship's not going to survive. And you don't want to have to spend your entire life being, fake. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. There's a sense of quietness on your surface, but that there's a lot of chaos inside. And you ask yourself, why can't I just be better? But this is an old wound, the one that caused you to withdraw, right? I get the feeling of like a Ferris wheel. Yeah, a Ferris wheel. So feeling like you're going round and round. So like it might be that you need to start respecting your cycle, the cycle that you need to retreat and come back, and then inform your friends about that so that they don't feel abandoned. I think the key here is that you can take that time, but if you completely isolate yourself from those you love, they're going to feel abandoned. So you need to make sure that you have that communication. So for example, I have this kind of thing that all my friends know, which is that I'm like this. I need a lot of alone time. I need a lot of time to just stare at a wall or meditate or whatever. But what I did is I established with when I make new friends, I say, okay, now I will never abandon you. Okay. But I will let you know when I need some time. And if that doesn't work for you, it's okay. I understand. And if that's not the kind of friendship you can have, but sometimes I might need days or weeks to recover. And so all of my friends, some of them I've had 20, 30 years. It doesn't matter if we stop talking for a day or 3 weeks or 3 months. When we talk again, it's like nothing ever changed. So respect your cycle, so sometimes you're at the bottom and you're talking to people. Sometimes you're at the top of the Ferris wheel and kind of alone. But the other idea behind that is like kind of viewing life as more of a game than a burden, right? Something joyful. Let's look at your last card. The cage called itself Just the Way Things Are. Yeah. So with this card, I would say you might have felt like resigned to this situation, like, oh, it's never going to change. I'm always going to be stuck in this kind of energy. I can't break the cycle. Start really small, okay? Start really small by just committing to yourself that you will just communicate with people when you need space. And the thing is if they don't accept that, then maybe they're not your person, your people, and that's okay, right? You are not meant to be for everyone. You're meant to be for certain people, and those certain people that are your people will love you and accept you with whatever cycles, but almost no relationship can survive lack of communication. So if you're going to vanish, make sure that you're not doing avoidant kind of behaviors like breadcrumbing people or making promises you can't keep. Make sure you're communicating, hey, our friendship is really important, but I need that space. So in a lot of ways, it feels like you feel like you can't trust other people with your situation, but also, like I said earlier, that you can't trust yourself because you'll just kind of go into survival mode or fight or flight mode and then disappear and retreat. You just need to learn how to communicate with the people that are important to you so that you don't lose them. All right, beloved alchemist, thank you so much for being here. And let me know how you like this new style where I'm doing pick-a-cards for everything. I'm going to be switching up, so I'm not going to be doing sometimes I'll just do straight pick-a-cards. I'm not going to pick a day of the week to do which. I'm just going to do whatever the spirit calls me to do. So sometimes I might do wax 3 days in a row. Sometimes I might do tea leaves and then wax and then mirror. We'll just keep changing up. Sometimes I'll just do straight pick-a-cards. All right. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Hello, alchemists, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 2. Why are you struggling to trust yourself? You chose timeline threads, destiny, connection cycles. Your path was always weaving you home. So the initial feeling that I'm getting with this, let's go ahead and pour our first wax. The initial feeling that I'm getting with this is that you don't necessarily trust yourself when it comes to your future. You feel like that maybe you've had some bad luck or some You've made some bad choices in the past, and so you're really scared that you might make those kinds of choices again, and or that there might even be a fear of feeling like that you're trapped in a timeline that is not your highest timeline. And so you feel like, how can I ever trust myself to find the timeline that's the best for me? Because I feel like I keep making decisions, or I keep having issues where I don't feel at home. Whereas you need to remember that, like, these cycles that we go through in our lives, they are oftentimes really the catalyst. So we rise to the level of our wounds, right? So don't feel like maybe you got thrust into the wrong timeline, or shame yourself, right? Maybe that's why you're manifest shaming. If I was truly spiritual, if I was truly in touch, then I wouldn't be in this situation. I wouldn't have suffered the way I did. But, you know, we're taught things when we're kids, and then we rise to the level of those wounds. And even when I'm saying this, I'm seeing kind of like a fetus curled up here. The idea being that this is a childhood wound that you're suffering from. The idea that you're going to blame yourself for everything. It wouldn't surprise me if you're the kind of person who blames yourself for stuff going on in the world. Oh, everything's my fault. There's a war somewhere. My fault somehow. And a lot of people are taught that kind of energy when they are children. And what it is it makes you feel so responsible for stuff that's like way not your fault, but it also makes you feel very responsible for everyone's emotions around you. And it makes you feel like that anything that goes wrong in your life is 100% your fault, because you're like manifest shaming yourself. And so you struggle to trust yourself because you think, oh, if I was good at manifesting or whatever, I would be in a better position. Well, you know, we rise to the level of our wounds, which means that the wounds that you got as a child are still playing a role in the decisions that you make. But also you also have to accept that there's a lot of things that are just out of our control as well, right? And the Dalai Lama says something along the lines of like, if there's something that's happening and you can do something about it, do it so that you don't have to worry. If there's something going on and you can't do anything about it, it's out of your control, then don't worry about it, because there's nothing you can do. Easier said than done, right? Who are you without the role you have been rehearsing your whole life? Yeah. You've internalized this kind of energy, this kind of pain. When really, that's not really who you are, right? You do not have to feel guilty when things don't go perfect. This is really a call to work on your shadow work. Yeah, especially with the 9 of Swords here. This is the Nightmare card. Yeah, you really get caught in your head about this kind of thing, right? Like, oh, I could be doing better. Oh, I say all the mantras. I do all the meditations. Why am I still failing? You're not. The journey is the destination. Don't let them make you feel smaller. You aren't Alice and they aren't a mushroom. Yeah, this definitely has to do with a childhood wound. Let's pour more wax. This Nightmare card shows me that it's deeply embedded in your subconscious. And, oops, I know how to do things. So what I'm feeling, these sort of light strings, it's the feeling of still being bound or connected to the people or to the societal pressure of this specific childhood wound of self-shaming for not achieving the things that you were told you needed to achieve, or even achieving them and not feeling like that they satisfy you or made you happy. You just did it because you were supposed to. Now let me study this for a moment, please. All right. Here I'm seeing an elephant. And elephants are very wise, right? Elephants worship the moon. Elephants mourn their dead. the world is full of all these fascinating things. I feel like you probably feel a connection to elephants in one way or another. Like maybe you have elephant jewelry, or you really like elephants, or you've always admired them. An elephant is the biggest land mammal, right? Don't let them make you feel smaller. You know, I get the feeling with elephants, like being strong and steady and stable is the thing that you need to focus on in order to start trusting yourself. Feeling like, you know what, I've been there for myself before. I don't have to feel like that I'm failing because everything in my life is in line, because you put this picture up in your head of what should be. And of course, life's not going to play out exactly like that. And you can't punish yourself because life does what life does, right? You're doing your best, and that's enough. Silence may be the most dangerous weapon in your emotional arsenal. You know, with that, it's saying step away from the role you've been playing. Step away from all of the things you're trying to do to over-manifest things in your life, and be silent. Also, it's a call that if there are people in your life, the ones who maybe, gave this wound when you were a child, you don't always have to argue with them or prove your point or share the sweet, delicate parts of yourself with people who will use it against you, who don't deserve to be a witness to that, right? So, yes, manifestation is real. Yes, timeline, switching timeline, blah, blah, blah. But leading you home, weaving you home, the difficult parts are also leading you home. Home is yourself. Home is back to yourself. Not rehearsing, not acting, not making yourself smaller, but being silent and observant and listening to your own inner voice, that still small voice. It is strong, it is stable, and, you know, these other people, it's like an elephant and a mouse. You are the elephant, you are strong, you know, and you're acting like you're afraid of a mouse because you were taught since you were a kid that this mouse was really scary. Okay, beloved Alchemist, thank you for being here today. Let me know if you like the new setup of doing pick-a-cards for everything. And I'm not going to do them in any order. Like, I'm just going to do whatever it feels that day, whether it's mirror, tea leaves, wax, traditional 3 cards, maybe with different items that I have, because I have a huge collection of mystical items. And so I will see you next time and continue the great work. Hello, Alchemist, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 3. You chose distraction spiral for why do you struggle to trust yourself? Chaos, confusion, clarity. You don't have to chase every echo. All right, so the first energy that I'm getting with this is that you have trouble focusing. You know, and you see that as a curse, right? That you're like, oh, I get distracted by this and that. But, you know, sometimes people's brains just work different. You know, I'm that kind of person. I'm always jumping from thing to thing. But that doesn't make it wrong, right? But you do have to learn how to manage it. But it might be that you're even accused by people in your life of being very chaotic or confusing. But in your own mind, it makes sense. And or sometimes you are confusing yourself as well, right? Let's get your initial wax down. Alrighty. Let's get that ready. Okay. So, I feel like the distraction spiral is twofold. Number 1 is distracting yourself from the things you need to do. But number 2 is that you're trying to do the things you need to do, and then you keep getting pulled here and there and everywhere. And so you might even get caught up in cycles of trying to organize so that you can get out of the distraction spiral. And then that itself becomes another distraction. If someone keeps stepping on your foot, eventually you must consider that they've always known your foot was there. Okay. with that being said, I'm getting the feeling here that it's you, right? You know the issue, you know what you're doing, but you still keep doing it anyway. Sometimes it isn't, I feel like the energy around this is that you feel like that you can't break free of this cycle, that you will always be stepping on your own foot, that you will always be getting in your own way. But I feel like that this is an invitation to say, maybe I don't need to do things the way other people do them. Maybe there's a different way. So let me give you an example. My whole life, I tried to organize things in the way that works for other people that you see on this YouTube channel or that TikTok or whatever. And I tried and nothing worked. I just would fall right back to ruin or whatever. But then I found out about specific ways for ADHD to organize, since I have ADHD. And I started doing those, and poof, suddenly my pantry is always orderly. Suddenly my refrigerator is, I can always find the food that I need, right? Because I stopped trying to fit the way my mind works into systems that weren't made for a mind like mine, right? So when you go through that cycle over and over again, you start feeling like that something's wrong with you, but really you're just trying to fit into a situation that doesn't work for you, and then you kind of spiral out against yourself on that. Let's study this for a moment. Okay, this is a horse. So the idea of feeling like, almost like you have to force your way through things, or that you're dragging yourself along. Does that make sense? Like you're dragging yourself along. Like you're dragging a huge burden along with you. So like, it wouldn't surprise me if you were in situations where you're sitting there and you know you need to do something, but transitioning from one thing to another feels like almost impossible. And that's where you have to start working with your mind and not dragging a bunch of things that you don't need to drag. You need to figure out ways. So like if something takes 5 steps to do, because that's the normal way people do it, maybe you need to find out a way to do it in 2 steps. Like for me, for example, I don't have a laundry hamper. All my laundry goes straight into the washing machine. I use the washing machine as a hamper. That's just a random example. That might be sacrilege to some people, but I'm just saying. Okay. 4 of Cups. Yeah, you feel like you've tried everything and you're really just disillusioned with it. But maybe you haven't tried everything. Maybe you haven't tried everything. There's so many tools out there now that you can be using to help you. Whatever your belief on AI is or whatever, I know that it's got a lot of problems, but some people use AI as almost like a personal assistant to keep things in order. I printed out some sheets that have the things that I want to do every day on them. And then I put all my projects and stuff on sticky notes in a notebook, because I get really overwhelmed if I see everything at once, but then I don't want to lose track of projects. So you just have to experiment and decide what works for you and what doesn't. But you can trust yourself. You feel like you can't because you've never been able to master this skill. But think of it more as a game, one that you're trying to solve. You're trying to figure out what works with your specific mind, right? You're not trying to, you need to stop trying to be somebody you're not, right? How many times must the same fire burn you before it becomes a lantern? Yeah, so it's saying that, this has hurt you so much and you kind of felt like giving up. But, this same thing can become the light that guides you forward. So give me a moment to take a look at your wax again. All right, what I see here is like a snail surrounded by kind of chaotic energy. So the idea isn't to change who you are. If you have a lot of chaotic energy around you, use it to your advantage, right? You don't have to change who you are. And maybe part of the problem is you thinking you have an idea in your head of who you should be and what kind of person you should be, instead of letting yourself be who you are and working with that. because society has a very narrow definition of what is acceptable or normal. And I personally think it's a badge of great strength and great honor to not fit into that, right? And so taking it slow, but being your beautiful, wonderful, chaotic self. And then with that Nautilus shell, it's saying that, you know, that's the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden ratio. It is perfection. So see the perfection in what you're doing. The only reason that it's seen as bad is because of some arbitrary societal thing, right? Now, does it keep you from your goals and stuff? Probably. But stop punishing yourself, because the self-punishing actually delays you getting to a space, right? It actually slows you down, right? Because that's more of a distraction. The curse survived because everyone mistook it for tradition. That goes exactly along with what we're saying, right? Because you've been trying to do things the traditional way, the way that other people do it, and that's not working for you. So if you come into my house, it looks a little weird because I run things differently here, but it works for me. And if someone were to come into my home and insult me over it or judge me on it, they can just walk right back out the door, because I am not having any of that. And I hope that you won't either. All right. So you've been struggling to stay organized. You've been struggling to follow through on your goals. And in a lot of ways, you've kind of given up on it. But this is a reminder just to take it slow and to rethink the way that you're doing things, so that you aren't punishing yourself and giving yourself more distress, but rather working with the way that you think, working with the way your life moves instead of against it, right? Just because it's popular, the popular way to do it doesn't mean it's the right way for you. So find the right way for you. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you like this new way that I'm doing it, which is basically that I'm doing all of them as pick-a-cards, but sometimes I'll just do a regular pick-a-card. Sometimes I'll do wax. Sometimes I'll do tea leaves. Sometimes I'll do spiritual messages, like from the spirits, like Akashic records and stuff like that. And sometimes, you know, I'll do Black Mirror, but I'm not going to do them on any specific day. I'm just going to do whatever question comes up from spirit, and then which medium feels right. So thank you so much for being here. And as I said, let me know what you think of the new format, and I will see you next time.